to our special edition of Parrot Pics, brought to you by Linda's Construction here at the Linda Studios, where we're going to go over a little college football playoff. And we have the one and the only. We got him up early out there in the Dakotas. Parrot, how you doing today?
Good morning, fellas. Let's go.
Well, the last time we tried to do this and we had a little mishap with sound, but the other thing that we had an issue with too was we didn't have anybody for me to talk to intelligently about college football. So now that you're back on, we can talk to Gibby, but now we got actually really good insight from you there. Oh, and Moose too, if he wants to join. No, he's not even going to join. So it's just me and you, I guess, today, Garrett.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, let's get into this, man. This is my first time ever for the 12-man college football playoff. What are you thinking here, Parrot?
I like everything about the format except for the guaranteed buys for the seeds if you win your conference. That's got to be fixed. Once that's done, I think they got a good formula here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at as we go through these games today. Yeah, we'll definitely be making some comments on that. But I 100%. How would you do, Garrett? The best four teams get buys, right?
Best four teams. That way it rewards the tougher conferences. It also rewards the guys like take Notre Dame, for example, if they were to have a tough out-of-conference schedule and actually put good teams on the line, and they did well, then they'd earn that bye. You just got to go with the four best teams, independent of the conference rules.
I agree.
Well, who's the four best teams? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. We had a little discussion on this last week, so that's why I asked.
Let's take a look. As we step back, you can take a look at this here, Parrot.
Well, I don't disagree with the way the original rankings are. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and then that fourth spot, you got to put Penn State in there because really nobody else has claimed it. But the CFP rankings 1 through 4, it's pretty simple in my mind. Those should be the four that get the bye. Make it simple.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of controversy about strength of schedule right now.
Well, don't get me started. As a Bama fan, the folks in SMU kind of played a fast one on the committee, but it is what it is. You can't lose to Oklahoma. You can't lose to Vandy. You don't have to worry about it. But strength of schedule, I mean, clearly the SEC is better. Maybe not lights out better than the Big Ten across the board, but it's definitely better than the ACC and the Mountain West. So you got to reward people for playing, folks. Otherwise, they won't schedule anybody out of conference. There's no reward for it.
Right, I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree, but this is where it gets a little interesting is because at the end of the day, it's like listening to some of the Bama complaints. I get it, right? It's a good conference. I mean, we all know that, right? But at the end of the day, they didn't lose any non-conference games that affected them, right? And that's where the thing is like, if you're going to quit playing non-conference games because of strength of schedule, well, just win your conference games. And all they had to do was win one, right? If they would have won Oklahoma or Vandy, they're in.
You're not
I think
wrong.
that's where it's a little. I have a little bit of heartache because at the end of the day, like everybody's giving Boise State a hard time, but if we're saying Oregon's clearly number one, Boise State's only loss, and they had Oregon in that game. That was right there, was Oregon. So I think the strength of schedule is important, but at the end of the day, I'm a guy. If you just play your games and you win, you got to get something now. The undefeated teams clearly need to be, somehow in that bye, which Oregon is. But I think at the end of the day, it's not perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. And what I like here is, you got to go back some years, right, Parrot, where Chris Peterson at Boise State, he said, we'll play anybody, and nobody would play him. And that's some of it is some of these teams don't want to play teams. I'm not saying that about Alabama. I want to be very clear there. But at the end of the day, like Boise State, in the past has said, we'll play anybody. Some teams don't want to play that, right? So you look at Notre Dame, they like to tout their schedule, but everybody they're playing now is not very good, right? Like, no, that's not their fault. Like, USC is not very good.
Stanford.
Florida State.
Stanford, yeah.
But I think if you win, and this is what they got, if the SEC is that good, and I know I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but you're saying, hey, reward the teams that are good. Let's just see what happens. I think that's the joy of this is it's 12 teams. There's going to be some good games. Let's just let the games play out and see at the end of the day, does a Penn State lose first round to SMU? Or do they sneak by? I mean, I thought SMU is a decent team. Are they – I mean, I think where they're rated is fine, right, at the end of the day. Getting in, I thought they deserved to get in just based off how they had played. But at the end of the day, let's just let the teams play and see how wrong or how right they got it, sort of. That was kind of my take.
That was your take?
Yeah,
All
it was
right.
kind of quiet. Nobody wanted to come back there. I felt like
No. Well, let's break down the games here. It's going to be a good time this weekend. We got tomorrow night. We're going to kick it off with Indiana, Notre Dame. Right now, Notre Dame favored by 7.5 right now. Parrot, what's your take on that game? It's going to be an interesting one.
Well, if I were taking the game from a point spread perspective, I'd take Indiana. But if I were to wager the game on the money line, I definitely would take Notre Dame. I think it's going to be Notre Dame's game. I think they had their bad, their hiccup against Northern Illinois. It's going to be at home. Tickets are, the cheapest ticket you can find one maybe for $300-400, but most of them are in that $600 to $1,000 range on SeatGeek, and it's going to be a decent weather. It's not going to be crazy cold. It's not going to be inclement weather when it comes to rain or snow or anything. It's just going to be cold. I think it's going to be Notre Dame. They'll grind it out and they'll win. It might be within 7, but Notre Dame's going to pull it off.
See, I'm going opposite there. I think this is a game for Indiana to make some noise. You go back to Ohio State, and I kind of remind everybody, that was a good game, right? They went down, scored right away, and that stupid fumble on that punt, that just kind of deflated their momentum. Not saying they were going to win, but I just felt like they were playing really, really good. And when that happened, boy, they just could not get out in front of themselves anymore. I mean, every opportunity they had to screw up, they did. I think Notre Dame is going to have struggles with Indiana. I think Coach Siggs is going to go in there, Singetti, and I think they're going to shock and beat Notre Dame. I really do. I like their game, and you had kind of talked about the moxie of Coach. I think he's since that game, the Ohio State game, right, they've kind of said, oh, they're not very good, et cetera. And since then, I think everybody's just kind of built his chip up a little higher.
Oh, yeah. And
I think he's ready to get rolling. I'm not convinced on Notre Dame. Their strength of schedule is not very good this year. I honestly think Indiana's going to knock them off.
All right, let's take a look at the next game on the docket. We're going to get an 11 o'clock game, Penn State, SMU. Right now, Penn State, obviously, the early favorite, 8.5-point spread there. SMU obviously being the 8.5-point dogs. What do you got on that one, Parrot?
Well, that line keeps moving in Penn State's direction. It opened 7.5. Now it's up at 8.5.
Yeah.
I think a lot of money's being put on Penn State to steamroll them. I think that's what's going to happen. You get this team from the South coming up north. That's where the big difference is. And SMU throws the ball around. It's going to be tough to do that in the cold weather in State College. And give me Penn State. I'll even give up the points on that one.
Yeah, I agree. I think I do think the weather is definitely going to be playing a factor in that. And how many people are in Happy Valley? It's like 108,000.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's one of the largest stadiums in the country, and I think they're going to have a whiteout, and it's going to be a very, very difficult place to play. So on to a really special game to us now here at the Scrib and Give podcast, because we got Texas, but we got Texas taking on Clemson. Man, I didn't like to see the money line or the spread move again this morning. Parrot started out at 11, now we're up to 12 as Texas favored. What do we got on that one?
Yeah, I don't. Once again, I don't know if I'd take the points on that one, but there's no question in my mind Texas is going to win that game. I don't know if they'll cover the 11, but if you're going to take the money line, you're going to pay a big number, but it's worth the win. So Texas is going to pull that one off.
Yeah, again, I do pick Texas for sure in that game, but it's going to be tough. 12's a lot of points, especially I thought Clemson was playing really, really well in that bowl game, or in the championship game there. And then the nightcap.
Don't I get to say anything?
No, we don't want to hear. What do you got for us,
Well,
buddy?
no, I just think it's an interesting, the spread. Dabble, what is the deal there? Have you heard anything? I don't get, don't get me wrong. I mean, Texas has played very good this year, but I'm not going to say Clemson has been playing great throughout the year, but they're not playing horrible where it's a 12-point spread. It just seems different to me.
Yeah.
Defensively, I feel like Clemson is not like they have been in the past, but man, they still got athletes there, and I don't know. Offensively they're not the same, but let's be honest here. Texas is not a defensive stud. It just seems weird.
Well, they got 2 losses on the year, and both are to Georgia, right? So, I mean, they're a good offensive team. Defensive, they're a solid team. But I agree with you. I actually made the comment this morning, Parrot, and I don't know because I don't get a ton of information on this, but there's a lot of movement right now, which is it's kind of disturbing for college football. You got kids already going into the transfer portal, in and out. Does that has to affect some of this stuff?
Yeah. The argument they make is these kids need to make a decision before the second semester if they do transfer and go in the portal. So from that standpoint, okay, it makes sense. But the reality is there's 12 teams still playing here. And when you look at Texas, one of those two quarterbacks, you're going to have a tough time convincing me one of them is going to transfer out. It might be Ewers go to Bama. I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors of Manning going to UNC. I mean, it's crazy. Just that dynamic is definitely a curveball that none of these teams really want to deal with, and I can't blame them.
Yeah, I did not hear the Manning the UNC. Obviously now Belichick going there. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, but
A lot of it's conjecture and just people maybe
Right.
throwing things out there in the media. But what you find out, if there's smoke, there's fire in some instance, and you can't tell me those are two of the best 10 quarterbacks in the country. One of them's going to leave.
Well, and Ewers has the opportunity to go to the NFL.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I'm surprised Ewers isn't getting more mention as an NFL draft pick.
Yeah.
He had a decent year, but
And Moosey was commenting back there in the background. I agree with him. There's a lot of money being thrown around right now. I did read this yesterday that Ewers, his going rate right now is $4 million.
I believe it. That the
NIL.
Oklahoma
So
got
there's
2.5
like 4
in
teams,
Auburn.
Bama being one, that might pay that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the Oklahoma guy going to Auburn and getting 2.5, and the Oklahoma quarterback is far from Quinn Ewers. Not even
Right.
close.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, I think, a segment that we could go on as the NIL. We'll do that someday because it's an interesting one. But let's take a look at the nightcap. Can we move on? It's great.
yeah, as long
I'm
as
glad that you added that.
yeah.
It really is,
Well,
but-
somebody's got to add stuff here because
All right, so we got Tennessee and Ohio State. Right now, let's check this out. I had it pulled up. Ohio State is favored by 7.5. What do you got on that one, Parrot?
Well, this is my Christmas present that I think I'm getting 7.5 points. I will take that. I think Tennessee. I think their defense is one of the best defenses in the country, so that travels in weather. And I'm just not a big Ryan Day fan. I'm on that bandwagon that I think he was born on third base, and I just think he's a little bit overrated. If Michigan can go into Ohio State and get a W, I definitely think Tennessee can, and I'll definitely take the points on that one. So
Yeah.
give me Tennessee to win, and I'm thankful for the points.
okay, we got to stop there. So if Ryan Day was born on third base, what the hell base was Gibby born on? I mean, this is where I'm going.
Well,
Come on, Parrot.
let me think of something appropriate to say.
It's pretty tough. Well, yeah, I'm just curious. Was he born at all? I don't know. I'm confused on that one, but we can come back to that someday. We could have a whole conversation on what base Gibby was born on. I'm just saying.
I can
I
tell you where
agree
he's
with
probably
you.
conceived.
I agree.
But on that Ohio State game, what I think is interesting about that is, I'm with you, Parrot. Ryan Day. You take out the big games, right? Ryan Day has done well at Ohio State, but at the end of the day, payday sort of comes on the big day, right? On the big game, and he gets paid a lot of money, and they win a lot of games. But at the end of the day, that's not what everybody's looking for. Is them to be 11-1 every year, or 12-0, and then end up with that loss in the first round of the playoffs, or like you said, right? Hey, they're sitting in one of the top 4 teams with a bye. If they, well, maybe not a bye, but potentially, right? But if they beat Michigan, right? They're playing Oregon, and you don't know what happens there, right? They obviously played them very tight the first game, so I'm with you. I just and to spend all that money, and this is what they get, right? Get beat by Michigan, and that's where I go a little bit back to the Indiana Parrot is, right? Indiana beat Michigan. I don't want to say fairly easy, but easy. They were kind of rolling there for a while, but so this is where I think it's going to be a really tough game for Ohio State, and I wonder if this is a blowout, what happens to Ryan Day? Interesting, right?
Good
I
luck.
can tell by the way you're laughing.
Well, and I can tell you right now, too, going back to that Ohio State-Michigan game, and I think this is what both you guys are talking about, obviously, is that in Tennessee being a very strong defensive team, man, it just seemed like Ohio State could not move the ball against Michigan. And Michigan's got a decent defense, but it's not Tennessee. And it was like, I mean, they had lots of opportunities in that game to score multiple times, and just could not even get a first down. So I think if I were to pick an upset, even though it's 9 versus 8, so it's really not that big of an upset, and obviously Ohio State being 7.5-point favorites, I would pick them even on the money line. Wouldn't you, Garrett? Tennessee outright?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Give it to me. I think they're the winner here, and the points are a gift. So appreciate the line on that one. Hey, I wanted to make a comment. You know, all that scuttle about Ohio State and Michigan with that flag being planted in the
Oh
middle.
yeah, that's right.
At the end of the day, who gives a rat's ass? I mean, really,
Right.
make a
Hey,
traveling trophy out of the thing, make it into a flag. Shoot, they've been doing it with the axe and the wooden jug and all this for years, and they make a show of it. Just make a traveling trophy out of a flag, and then every time they can slam it after they win it after the games and call it good. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
they're just so damn
Love it.
sensitive. Win the game, turn it into a positive. The Big Ten has a ton of traveling trophies. Do it in this situation and call it good.
I love it. I love it.
Well, there we go. That's the first round matchup. So after this weekend, right, we'll reconvene next week. Kind of gets the hopefully a few upsets. We'll see what happens, and we'll see like can the Boise States of the world win one game. You know, same with Arizona State, right? Can they win? I think the interesting thing I talked about it last week with the Arizona State is the team that is not in the Big 12 anymore potentially could play the Big 12 champions, which would be kind of funny. You know, it's just kind of weird how it all works out. But as we think about this, Garrett, let's talk about one final games or a couple games here. The FCS Final Four. You got South Dakota State taking on North Dakota State, and then I believe it's South Dakota taking on Montana State. Is that right?
You bet. Montana State has their touchdown Tommy or whoever their quarterback is. He's very athletic. He's going to be probably the best player on the field. If USD can contain him, I think USD's got a shot to go up to Bozeman and get a W there, which that's who I'll be rooting for. I'm not a big fan of USD, but it's cool to see some area kids do well. And that team is built just the way NDSU was built for years. Great offensive line, good running game. And it would be cool if we could see all South Dakota State versus South Dakota national championship. And that's who I'll be rooting for this week. And Travis made a comment earlier. It's kind of cool just from our perspective, and Travis specifically. 3 of the 4 finalists in the FCS playoffs are former NCC teams, so that's cool to see, and kind of rooting for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time ago, Parrot, since I had a football helmet on. But you talk about what that NCC was like, and people you ask where you played, and I played at Augie, and it's probably about a 90% chance that they hadn't heard of Augustana University, which it is now, which had a hell of a year this year. But man, that conference was unbelievable when you think about North Dakota State, South Dakota State, and at the time, UNC, University of Northern Colorado, controlled a lot of that conference. So, and seeing people go to the NFL, and now you look at it, it's a little bit disbanded, now moved up. I love the fact that there's 3 of the 4 teams are all from the NCC.
Hey, let me throw this at you. Who ended up winning the D3 this year? I guess I didn't follow it here at the end.
Still going.
Yeah, it's still going as well.
Bethel got beat last week, so they're up there, but it's still going. So it's Saskani or whoever Bethel played, and I don't remember the other side. St. John's got beat. By Saskani.
I'm always a homer for the lower levels just because the quality of play might be a little bit lower, but if you appreciate football and just good strategy and root for teams in a setup where it's an actual tournament, D2, D3, and the FCS has had it forever. It's taken a while for the big boys to catch up, but that's the best part of this, and I think that's why this CFP playoff is going to have such good ratings this weekend. I'm excited as heck.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, well, we'll see, right? I mean, we'll be back here next week talking about the next round, so it'll be exciting to see. All right, that's your first edition of the Parrot Pics of the College Football Playoff. Again, brought to you by Lindus Construction here in the Lindus studio. So, Parrot, hey, it's good getting you up here in the morning. I know It's always good to see you in the morning, get a smile out of Gibby. It's like just seeing his
Right.
old buddy. It's kind of like me seeing Moose, you know, we get giddy.
It happens.
All right, have a good one, my man.
Good luck, fellas.
See you, bud.